Hi, I'm David Lee from BASSBOSS, and I'm here to introduce the Krakatoa. This is a tiny loudspeaker for what it does. It produces extremely high SPL. We don't actually know how loud it goes, but I know we've gotten about 145 dB out of it so far. One of the questions I get about the Krakatoa is, what gave you the idea? Well, you put things from different areas and you bring them together, and to a certain extent that's what innovation is. So one of the things we know is we've been building coaxial loudspeakers since many years ago, but the limitation is in how much of the bandwidth can you cover with a single loudspeaker, with a single point source, and where are those limitations? And so the ideal, the physics ideal, the theoretical ideal is an infinitely small point from which all sound emanates. That way you can ideally locate it and isolate it, and it's coherent. But that's ideal, and unfortunately the world's not ideal, so we have to work within the parameters of reality that as we understand it at this point. And so you have to figure out how to make something as compact as possible to produce all frequencies from the smallest possible dimensional space. What we had done is we'd made the Kraken, and one of the thoughts I had was, wouldn't it be great if it had, full range frequency coming from the center of it, and then it would just be one speaker. And then somebody conveniently came up with an 18-inch triaxial that had the output capability to keep up with that much low end. What happens then is you have to fit that in the middle of the cabinet. So what it is, it's an 18-inch mid-bass with a coaxial horn firing through the center of it, with a 4-inch voice coil ring drive compression driver, through the center of which goes a 3-inch voice coil ring drive compression driver to give you the full bandwidth and ridiculously high output capability for something in that scale. But one 18-inch woofer is not going to keep up with that for the low frequencies, so it needs some help. So it's got 4 18-inch woofers around it, subwoofers for low frequency. Because the cabinet that holds the center part has to take up space inside the box, the Kraken, which is 421s, is converted to 418s to allow those 18s to operate in less space than there is in a Kraken. And that gives us the ability to run this thing full range in the same footprint exactly as the Kraken, which allows it then to stack with the Kraken, transport with the Kraken, etc., and allows the Kraken to give you even more of that low frequency energy when you put them together. So the idea came from, what's the perfect ideal and how close can we get? The high frequencies come from the center of that horn, the mids from the center of that horn, the mid bass comes from the 18 behind that grill. Then we transition to the low frequencies out around the perimeter and the very low frequencies in the ports. So you've got all frequencies of what is effectively the human hearing range from a space that is 4 feet by 4 feet. That means that the distance from center to edge on that is 2 feet. That means that the distance from acoustical center to acoustical center is less than 2 feet from 19 kilohertz to 70 hertz, and just about 2 feet from 19 kilohertz to 23 hertz. There isn't anything else that does that. And it is an interesting experience. When you have that experience, when you need that kind of coverage and you have that limited amount of space and you need to hide something, especially in a big room, or if you're constrained with space in a truck, whether it be for transport or for parade float or for art car, there isn't any way to put more energy in less frontal area than that. So you have the option to use this as a full range if you need to add more low frequency energy, and because the first thing that runs out of energy on this cabinet is the low frequency capability. In order to keep up with that, you can add more subs, and within the programming you can raise the crossover frequency, the high pass filter, and allow the low frequency amplifier to provide more SPL just above those 20 frequencies to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, or 70, and you can transfer some of that energy into additional subwoofers to be able to cover really large spaces with powerful sound in an incredibly small footprint. This uses only 12 square feet. So if it's flown, it uses no space at all, and if it's stacked, it's only 12 square feet in your venue. So where does this get used? This can be used in a large auditorium to cover a very wide and deep space. If you fly it up high and you get full range from a single point source, which gives you incredible intelligibility. Point sources with a single arrival to the ear is easier for the human brain to decipher the exact information, so you can get better intelligibility. Great impact because of that coherent arrival. And so when you're dealing with spoken word and transitioning to music in the same venue, you can use something like this to better effect than a line array system, for instance. Outdoors, again, it's stable when the air is moving, so in the breezes, you get a more stable sound field for the audience in an outdoor environment, and that's just another benefit of point source. And you can carry less gear in less space. This thing is a large individual block that takes the work of many smaller blocks. So in terms of how much space and weight this thing uses compared to a more conventionally thought of system, this actually is lighter and smaller by a lot. And again, you have all those benefits of that clarity. When you're doing a stereo system, the imaging is outstanding, again, because of that single point, and you'll be able to do nightclubs at ridiculous levels and power and focus. There's just not another animal with this kind of monstrousness. How many different things can you do with it? What about front fills at a large festival? You know, maybe you've got 20 line arrays aside, but you need front fills. You can put a bunch of little boxes across the front, or you can put these and cover across the front of the stage with much less gear, much less wiring, faster setup, etc. Oh, I've got a band that wants to have rock level on stage, side fills for the band. That'll work. Point source, resistant to feedback. Another thing is, okay, you're at this big festival and you need a delay fill. Well, how many speakers do you want to put out there? How much power? How much wire? How about one, or just a tower like this, and that's your delay fill. However many 100 feet out, simple, quick to set up, saves time. Truck space, almost nothing by comparison to anything that's capable of the same job. And of course, the capabilities that you have in like dance floor environments are not what you're familiar with, let's put it that way. This is something that is going to be a new experience for anybody who walks into a room with these in it. They're never going to have experienced anything like this. And that's worth something. If you have a venue or you sell to venues and they have a marketing budget, this is part of their marketing budget. Because anytime somebody walks into a venue and sees and hears this, they're texting their friends. They're going to be like, holy cow, you got to get over here. And then when they think, where should we go? Yeah, we're going there. What is the experience of the Krakatoa? What is experiencing the Krakatoa like? It's unlike anything you've heard before because of how concentrated it is. It's extremely intense and extremely compact for its output capability. But when you're listening to it, it's at a different scale from anything you've heard. It has a sharper resolution than what you have become accustomed to with more traditional speakers, where you have a high frequency driver above a mid frequency driver, above a low frequency or a subwoofer. It's different in how it focuses that energy and how you experience it. And I want to use terms that may not be in the lexicon, but it's hyper real. It's bigger than reality. So when you want to be inside the music, you stand between a pair of these things and it's just so big. The experience is huge because it's so sharp, and it's just the scale of it is just something you haven't yet experienced. It's the giant hi-fi with razor sharp focus and the ability to move your clothes, your hair, your body, and blur your vision. That's the experience of it, and it's really difficult to explain. It's one of those things where you had to be there, and so you have to be there.